meals or you don't fight tonight. And I'm like, well, we drove a long way and I'd like to get paid. So we're going to fight tonight. So drove up to Chicago, beat the brakes off him pretty soundly. I don't think they wanted to give me the belt. And then brought the belt back here to Texas where it'll stay now. So no knees at all. No elbows, no clinching. And I'm like, do I get to still punch him? For the last event. But they kind of encouraged you to come back. But as a fighter, I had to go buy my DVD if I wanted to watch.
They didn't even give you a free DVD?
I was the youngest of 9 boys from a family of 12. Wow. So we were kind of like scrapping constantly just as like a lifestyle. At that point, I was right away like, all right, if you want shin guards, you don't want this. Back in the day, I was like, I'll fight anyone, any weight class. Literally used to fight on like a day's notice. They'd have people miss weight, and they'd be like, hey, you want to fight? And I'm like, yeah, I'll fight the guy who cut to my walk-around weight because that's a smart idea. And I'd go get my ass kicked.
Perfect.
Brian or Brian?
Like Kobe Bryant.
Brian.
Yeah.
Bryant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If I don't
enunciate
the T, it's just like, I don't really care.
It's all right. I'm terrible with names.
No, I am too. Don't. Oh yeah. I am too. Do not get it twisted.
So we got Jeremiah Truhlar, the gentleman Truhlar, here with us today. It's a pleasure having you here. I'm glad you came in.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. And so, I mean, let's get this started. You had a recent fight here, I believe, in May.
Yes, we made our pro debut May 13th, and then immediately fought again May 27th. So like almost back to
that is, I kind of noticed. I did like a little bit of a deep dive on your Instagram, and I noticed you went 8-2 this past year, or that was in 2022 maybe.
So yeah, 2022. I starting in May, I want to say. From May 2022 until today, I had 13 fights, not counting like smokers and like that sort of stuff. So it's pretty much been at least one a month.
Yeah.
So,
jeez.
Yeah.
That's quite a bit.
Very fast paced.
Are you like your training regimen with like all those fights coming up constantly? Are you just constantly training, or what's your camp look like, I guess?
So, yeah. Pretty constantly training. I'm kind of always in the mindset of a fight is gonna pop up here pretty soon. I almost feel like I haven't sharpened myself so much since getting back into it last year, because I'm not actually taking like a camp like most people do. Like most people, it's like, all right, we've got 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever it is, with a goal in mind. I'm just kind of always staying ready so that when the fight pops up, I can go take it. But for that reason, it's not like I'm not taking time off to really like learn new things per se.
Yeah.
So probably robbing myself a little of that aspect just because of my like high fight tempo. Probably be slowing it down here pretty soon to work on some of that.
Okay. Did you, or were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was about to say, I'm always interested to know how fighters get into fighting, because you hear some people that are just like street fighting, and then I just found my way from that.
Right. And they're 100-0 as a street fighter.
What was your way of coming into the mixed martial arts?
So growing up, I was the youngest of 9 boys from a family of 12. Wow. So we were kind of like scrapping constantly just as like a lifestyle. And then of course growing up in like Jackie Chan movies and all that. So that kind of always had me interested in it. My mom was super opposed to anything martial arts. Like she was just a little ignorant to what it all meant. So she assumed it was all like Oriental, like religion, voodoo magic, whatever stuff coming into it. So it was like a hard no for any of it. And then MMA got popular. So my brother and I were like, we want to do MMA. And they're like, well, what's that? We're like, it's boxing and wrestling. And they're like, all right, we don't have a problem with boxing or wrestling. So you can do boxing or wrestling. So I got into it when I was 15, started training, and then by 18 I was like, all right, we're gonna get a fight, and just absolutely loved it. So it was pretty consistent from age 15 to like 22. I think I had 11 fights, so
Wow.
kept a pretty good pace.
Mm-hmm.
And then started having kids, thought I was done forever with fighting, and just got back into it last year. Like, I literally took 7 years off.
Wow.
From one fight until May last year.
Yeah.
And from May to today, turned professional with it. So
you started off
Yeah.
with MMA. Did you ever do jiu-jitsu or kick? I know you do kickboxing and
Yeah.
Muay Thai now, right?
So the gym I started at was primarily like combatives jiu-jitsu, they called it, not like BJJ. And then Jeet Kune Do, so which is the one Bruce Lee founded.
Okay.
And brought up.
All right. I didn't
So
recognize
those were
that.
the two like major ones. They did a little Muay Thai, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like stressed a whole bunch. So yeah, my whole foundation, it was all jiu-jitsu. My first 5 fights were all MMA fights, and then after that I haven't really bothered with it. Sustained a back injury, like totally unrelated, and I'm like, you know what, it's just not worth it.
Mhm.
Even if I win, I'm like, I hurt for like a month. I'm like, no, we're not doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But
So was that your main lead into switching to Muay Thai and kickboxing?
that was 100%
Okay.
the lead into that. Yeah. After that, I was like, it just hurt. Like, even training, I'm like, I can't keep up training this.
Mhm.
So I'm like, I'm just gonna go to striking. Back then it was they wanted everyone to wear headgear and shin guards for Muay Thai or kickboxing matches. So I'm like, felt a little wussy going from MMA where nobody cares and you're wearing 4-ounce gloves to now we're wearing headgear and shin guards and 16-ounce gloves. And
Yeah.
but yeah,
I was gonna ask about the shin guards. Whenever you throw calf kicks, is there even a point to throwing the calf kicks with shin guards on?
oh, absolutely.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Shin guards do almost nothing once you get to like a real fight where you're trying to hurt each other. It's great in sparring. You clash shins and it's not just straight bone on bone. Nobody has to get bruised or injured for sparring.
Mhm.
But if you're in like in that fight, you guys got pulled up right there. We're wearing shin guards.
Yeah, that's it.
You're still gonna really, really hurt somebody with
Mhm.
shin guards on if you want to.
Really?
Yeah, the only real protection it offers is just that shin on shin check. If you get kicked in the head, you can still get knocked out very easily. And if you're actually targeting calf kicks with it, yeah, your calf's a pretty delicate muscle. It doesn't care for it.
Oh, I already know those calf kicks hurt. Even from like half power, it still absolutely destroys the calf. But watching these fights, I love how you fight and you are continuously always walking forward. Like, it's so respectable, like a Justin Gaethje or something like that.
So yeah, we funny you should bring that up. Yeah, Sean Strickland and Justin Gaethje are like my 2 absolute favorite fighters in the UFC right now. And yeah, it's pretty much just that. Walk it forward. If anyone wants to stand in the middle and throw hands, I am always up for that. Even if I end up losing it,
Yeah.
I almost never resort to going backwards.
Mhm.
Like, my coaches always make fun of me. They're like, all right, we're gonna do like, backwards drills. They're like, yes, true, backwards is a direction. And I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's very fun watching your fights because you are, like I said, like a Justin Gaethje, and then you also, I love your Superman punches as well. You keep on throwing the Superman punches, and it's very fun to watch.
Yeah, that and an axe kick are probably my 2 favorite things to throw. I always point out because the commentator's always like, an axe kick, and I'm like, it's not effective. It just looks good on camera. I'm like, it's worth it. But yeah, Superman punch has always been one I'm a huge fan of.
Mhm.
Eh,
Closes the distance.
closes
really
the
fast.
distance really fast, and my like biggest danger to me is distance.
Mhm.
Like, I don't regulate distance very well. I'm not an outside fighter, as you've clearly seen. So for me, it's like, if I find myself pushed back from a teep or something, or my teep pushed him too far back, that Superman punch gets me right back into it.
Yeah, speaking of the distance, this guy, I noticed this guy was huge.
He was
Yeah.
lanky.
James Vick, I fought on the 17th or 13th of May, and he was 6'3". And then I went right to this guy who was 6'2", and I'm like, all right, I gotta find some guys my size.
Yeah. And how tall are you?
5'9".
Yeah,
So,
that's quite the disadvantage. But when you do get in close, you utilize the body shots really well.
Lots of body kicks.
That's our boxing coach has pointed out to me quite a few times that I'm able to generate power in close from low without actually like doing a wind up or having to set up for it. So I love when, especially in boxing style, where they just kind of like grab you high around the shoulders or like try to wrap you up around your head to just
pummel them in the gut.
It's fun. That fight with the second round knockout, that was one he could not get away from. He kept on doing like a single collar tie on me, just grabbed me behind the neck, and I was just wailing away on him with that right
Was that
hand.
the one? Was that the uppercut knockout, or was that the knockout with the high left leg kick?
That was the left leg kick one, yeah. Yeah, fun thing about that one, I had Dawson cornering me for that one.
Okay, nice.
And in warm-ups, he kept telling me, he's like, don't sleep on that inside leg kick, because he's like, it's really effective. You can throw it more. I'm like, all right. Wasn't really something I used a whole bunch in sparring, so I'm like, all right, I'll start using it. And the dude was just eating him every time. So between rounds 1 and 2, he's like, all right, he's eating all of those. He's like, throw it low, show it low, go upstairs. And I was like, okay. And knockout, like out cold knockout. I was like, all right, good call,
awesome.
good call.
I'm also very interested in the psychology of fighting. Like, you go into fights, you have a game plan for some of the fighters that you're fighting against, but how much of the fight is like instinctual? Like, you don't really think about what is happening like that much.
I would say at this point, pretty much all of it. At least for myself, I don't know that I have enough like different skill sets that I'm strategizing based off who my opponent is. Like I knew for Vic, I was not letting him keep me at range. I had to get inside. I knew for this guy, I was not letting him keep at range. I had to get inside. But there's not too much I really like train for a specific person. I try to make them fight my fight because I think that's like the only chance I have at winning. Yeah, if it goes to decision, I pretty generally will lose a decision, I feel like. So I'm like, I need to just get it close and dirty and finish it. But yeah, psychology wise, I'm just kind of like, it's what I do every day in training, every day in sparring. I don't really care who's in front of me. I'm gonna take my fight to them. And pressure is something not many people get to experience to the level I bring to the table. Like if they've got a pressure fighter at the gym, it's like, okay, for a round or so, and then he's gassing out and he's backing up. I'm like, no, we can go 10, 12, 16 rounds. I don't care what we're doing. I will walk you down the entire time. That's how I get my breaks.
That's badass. That is badass.
I was going to say, like, seeing that you always are walking forward and being the aggressor most of the time, your cardio stays up the entire time.
Yes. My cardio has always been really good, but my output has only recently really gotten up there. They used to tease me when I first started at the Lair that like I never moved my head and I was just kind of a tank, but a punching bag. I just walk forward and get hit the whole time. So yeah, the cardio was always there. The output really wasn't. And once I put the output on it, now it's like, okay, now it's something people are actually concerned about and worried about, because the second they drop their guard, I'm still throwing punches. The second they get tired of throwing punches, I'm still throwing punches. Like I'm not getting out of your face.
And also, whenever watching your fights as well, I've seen you've caught the body kicks like a lot. You love catching the body kicks and then throwing a straight right behind it. Like, surely that's instinctual,
Yeah,
right?
that's I mean, it's instinctual, but actually getting it effective, it takes a lot of practice. So pretty much all the things you see me do a lot of will be things somebody did to me very effectively, very consistently, and I was like, all right, we're gonna use this on
Yeah,
the next person.
just like you were
and see
telling
how
us
that
about
goes
earlier
over.
with y'all's sparring today.
Yes, yeah, perfect example. But that's one of my favorite things is learning something from one guy and then trying it at the gym the next day, and then like a week later seeing the coach teach that to someone else and be like, we saw that one from True. I'm like, yes.
Tell us about this belt you got here. This beautiful Muay Thai belt.
Muay Thai.
So yes, that was one of my last amateur fights. It's pretty important to me because I went all the way up to Chicago to get it, and that's where I'm from. That's where I started fighting.
Oh, wow.
So that's with TFC out of Cicero up near Chicago.
Okay.
And they were kind of who I broke in with. I fought probably 8 times for him, and I won 0. Won 0 fights. This is back in 2012 to 2014.
Yeah.
Fought like 8 times, did not win a single fight. So then when we get back into it down in Texas, and I'm like walking over people, I'm like, you know what? There's one thing I need to go to.
Yes.
So I hit up the promoter, and I'm like, all right, do you have a Muay Thai or kickboxing belt for 55, 65, 70, like pretty much any weight I can hit? And he's like, yeah, we have a 155 belt. We're looking to match this guy who's 4-0, and he holds our 145-pound belt. So like a
challenge
pretty serious,
accepted.
yeah. And I was like, let's do it. It's like, all right. So drove up to Chicago, beat the brakes off him pretty soundly. I don't think they wanted to give me the belt. And then brought the belt back here to Texas where it'll stay now. So
that is amazing.
Forgive me, I'm not a very big Muay Thai or kickboxer. What's the difference between Muay Thai and kickboxing? I've tried to watch Muay Thai fights. I'm like, I have no clue.
A frustrating amount of rules is the difference. So that last fight I just had May 27th was supposed to be a Muay Thai fight. So that means you can throw elbows, knees, fists, feet, shins, all that stuff. And the biggest thing that separates it from kickboxing or boxing is clinch work. You are allowed to clinch up, strongly encouraged actually, and so long as you continue working in the clinch, one of the 2 people are doing something active, the ref should let you stay in that clinch the entire round.
Okay.
Clinch is a very dangerous spot to be in with a lot of Muay Thai guys because we're throwing elbows from super close range. They can still knee you in the head from there. Like it's fun to watch. It's definitely not boring. It's not like boxing where you're just tying up and waiting for a ref to separate you. It's serious, and that's where it gets ugly in the clinch. You get guys cut like crazy with elbows. So I go there expecting that. Really excited for it because in amateur Muay Thai, they often don't let you throw elbows unless you have elbow pads on. If they do, you'll have to wear headgear. A lot of times it's shin
Is that by
guards.
like governing body, like depending on where you're fighting?
Yes, for the most part, that's whatever like sanction it's falling under.
Okay.
So yeah, I went there expecting my first real pro Muay Thai fight, and like, all right, this is gonna be a lot of fun. And then they, in the rules meeting, announced us as a kickboxing fight. And I'm like, no, that's not right. And they're like, nope, it's the other guy's coach was basically like, we thought it was kickboxing. I'm not going to let him fight a Muay Thai fight tonight. So the promoter's like, you either fight kickboxing rules or you don't fight tonight. And I'm like, well, we drove a long way and I'd like to get paid. So we're going to fight tonight. So right off the bat, I knew no elbows at all were allowed. Couldn't throw elbows at all. And you couldn't clinch at all. So I'm like, he's 6'2". I need to be able to do both of these things, and now I can't. Well, then the ref who was reffing my fight comes into the locker room like 20, 30 minutes before the fight, and he's like, more bad news. We're going to go with traditional American kickboxing rule set, which is like no low kicks to the legs, no knees at all, no knees at all. No elbows, no clinching. And I'm like, do I get to still punch him? So at this point, I'm just a little annoyed. But I'm like, all right. So we still did it. It worked out okay. But yeah, it was difficult not to throw some of those things because it gets pretty instinctual at this point. And I try not to fight kickboxing fights just because I don't enjoy it as much. But yeah, so the last two were both kickboxing. I'm like, I'm gonna probably take a break from kickboxing for a while.
Yeah.
Definitely find some Muay Thai.
I was just about to ask if you had a preference, but obviously
Yes,
Muay Thai.
definitely Muay Thai is the preference.
Yeah.
Probably just for the clinch factor of when that pressure gets close enough, I have the option to grab a clinch and work from it, not have to worry about them just hugging me and then the ref separating us.
Right.
I saw on your Instagram no stools, no waters in between the rounds. I think that is, I mean, it's respectable, don't get me wrong, but the no water is what threw me off.
So yeah, I started that, I think kind of just like as a joke or maybe like a fun flex. But now I've actually gotten my coaches to sit on my stool between rounds to talk to me. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It makes for some great photos. It's definitely a good mind fuck for the other fighter to be able to like look over and be like, all right, you're hanging onto the ropes, gasping for breath, and your coach is dumping water on you, and I'm just like,
you're just standing
nope,
there
ready
ready
to go.
to take it.
Yeah. No, awesome. I don't think I've ever sat on a stool in my whole career. Like even when I first started, I don't even thought we brought stools. We were really unprepared for a couple fights and like didn't even bring towels, and I like got the shit beat out of me. So my coach is like wiping my face with his shirt. And I'm like, this isn't going well. But yeah, I drank water back then, but my just daily hydration levels was not great. It's not something I really thought about. So it was like I felt it was a necessity between rounds. I'm like, yeah, I absolutely need some water. Now I drink like a gallon of water a day, like as a standard. And I firmly believe like hydration starts the day before, and by the time you get to the fight, that water is not doing anything for you then.
Yeah.
And I don't drink water in training ever. So I'm like, why? To me, taking a drink between rounds for myself would be like a sign of weakness to myself. It's like, if I need this now, that means I didn't push myself hard enough in training because I didn't need it in training and I need it now. I'm like, no, at this point, I don't think even if I needed it, I would admit it or accept it. And I just push through. But yeah, I like it. It's a fun
That's
mind
awesome.
fuck just for people to catch on to. Like I loved hearing the commentator for the last fight being like he's out there, the stool's sitting next to him. He's like, they haven't even touched the stool. What do you say? He's like, they don't need no stinking stools. I'm like, yes.
Going back to what you said earlier, you said Sean Strickland was one of your
he just had a beautiful fight last night.
I was bringing this up. This was the first round was kind of scary.
So the first round, we were at a cigar lounge watching it. So a bunch of people who like don't really follow it at all, and his opponent came out hot right off the bat, and they're like, "Oh, this one's," and I'm like, "No, but look at his face. There was never a moment when he was not calm, cool, and collected. He's always calm, cool, and collected." And I'm like, it's not going 5 rounds. This dude's going to gas out. And he gassed out pretty fast. Yeah. And then just a beautiful finish.
Yeah, I'm sure the eye poke didn't feel good.
No, that's what second round starts. And I'm like, he's still mad about the eye poke. He's definitely still mad about the eye poke.
It definitely showed because he came out the second round and how do you say that? A bus?
A bus?
A bus?
Magomedov.
He was gassed on the second round, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's probably toast."
And Strickland does not gas out ever.
He doesn't.
I don't think it's ever happened.
It was Strickland. He's always walking flat-footed forward.
So
flat-footed.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing I've only recently heard some high-level coaches talk about. Is everyone always says balls of your feet, bouncing around, dancing around. But I think it's slowly starting to be accepted that you can be flat-footed because, I mean, like scientifically, the closer your feet are to the ground, the better and faster you'll be able to generate power. So it's like, yeah, it's cool you're dancing around and keeping at range, and that's great. But if that's not your game, why be up on the balls of your feet? If I'm just waiting for you to get in range, I'm already set waiting for you. I can flick off punches really, really fast, flat-footed. I mean, I'm very flat-footed, so I have almost no footwork at all. It's been working out so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, watching Sean Strickland with his fight with Alex Pereira, I was like, surely I think him being flat-footed was one of the reasons why he got. But what did he get knocked out with? I don't even remember. It was some kick or something, maybe, I don't know. But I was like, damn, if he wasn't that flat-footed, I feel like he would have been able to.
Yeah, but it's one of those, like, I mean, that's one of the highest ranking strikers on the planet.
Yeah.
So it's like what you do will work 99% of the time. He found that 1% that it clearly did not work for him. But what's he, like 25 and
It's
4
ridiculous.
now?
Yeah.
27 and 4. Yeah, he's been around a long time and he's been kicking the shit out of people.
Did you see what was that fight where the dude took the nasty elbow? Elvis Brenner, I believe. Scroll up.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was it might have been in the undercard.
I think.
But they showed a slow-mo of his face just getting
opening
gashed
up
with the elbow,
gnarly.
and it looked like a doctor was taking a knife and just slicing it open.
Some of those I feel like it's not even like an actual cut; it's like a tear, like
the pressure,
right?
and
Like
the force
this
of the
side
elbow.
of your face stuck, but that side just ran that way with your elbow, and it just like rips it. It's yeah, they're fun to watch, and they bleed like crazy.
Those make for the best fights.
And I want to hear your opinion about this next UFC fight card coming up with, or is this the next one? This is July 8th.
Yeah,
July
it'll
8th.
be this
Volk
Saturday
versus Yair. What are you thinking? Because I'm taking Volk. I'm taking Volk.
Yeah. I'm probably one of the most casual fans you'll find who actually participates in the sport. So I don't follow any of it super closely, but I would put my money on Volk for pretty much any opponent at almost any weight class. The dude's an animal.
I agree. Especially with his last fight was it Islam? Islam was his last fight?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he won it too.
My biased opinion definitely wanted to say he won it. He definitely didn't lose it. Like it was a good fight. But.
Dude, I love Volkanovski, don't get me wrong, but I'm kind of rooting for Yair just because I hear these stories that he trains in like religious temples down in Argentina when he's preparing for his fights, and I just feel like something about that he has to win. But I think it'll be an interesting fight. I'm more interested in go back to that. I think it's Dan Hooker versus Jalen Turner.
Yeah.
And then the Bo Nickel versus Trayshawn Gore. I love Bo Nickel. I think that'll be interesting.
That's crazy.
Bo Nickel's a dog.
And Robbie Lawler. Why they put Robbie Lawler?
This is his retirement fight.
I thought he had that a few times already.
Like 45.
And I believe Sean Brady pulled out of that Jack Della fight too.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And the Robert Whitaker fight. They're supposed to fight Izzy next, I think. Whoever wins this one.
I heard that if Whitaker wins this, Izzy wants a new opponent, and that if Whitaker wins, that could be Sean Strickland's ticket to fighting Izzy.
He said he wanted it.
If he's already fought Whitaker, but that could be an interesting fight.
Yeah, he said he wanted it.
What weight class do you prefer to fight at?
So I need to fight at 155.
Okay.
Just from like a competitive standpoint. If I really want to make something of this, it's kind of got to be at 155. That being said, I think we fought all the way up to 178 last year. So what's available is what I'll take. If it's an option between two, I'll take the 55. But if I don't have anyone to fight at 55, I'll fight. Like my last two fights were both at 70, 170.
Okay.
So
yeah,
I walk right now at like 175. So I don't really have any business fighting at 170 because those guys are cutting from 190.
Yeah.
But it's worked out okay thus far. So
how is that weight cutting process?
I kind of have it down to a science for myself. Okay. It's absolutely miserable. I hate every second of it. But I can pretty safely assume to drop like 25 pounds in a month for a weight cut.
Is it mostly water weight?
The last sauna? Like 10 to 15 pounds is always going to be water weight. But it starts like right now I'm in camp for July 29th. So I'm pretty much like chicken and green veggies for dinner every night. It's like I'll eat a decent breakfast, but then lunch is like a protein shake or something I make at home. And then dinners, always like chicken and fish or chicken or fish and broccoli or salad, a lot of boring stuff. And I'm doing that for a month. So I'm like bored out of my mind diet wise. And I have an insane sweet tooth. Like I'll put down a whole carton of ice cream before the podcast is over. Like I could definitely do that.
There's a carton of ice cream.
Yeah, don't.
You want it right now.
It's going to go off camera real quick. So that's probably the worst part is knowing like I can't touch any of that stuff because there's no, I'm going to have like a scoop. It's like, no, I'm going to have a scoop today. And then tomorrow I'm going to be like, well, I already had a scoop yesterday. So fuck it. We're eating the whole carton. So diet's super boring. Exercise is excessive. I'll try to do like get my miles in the morning, which for me looks like an elliptical because I've got knee problems on top of that. So no running for me at all. So I'll do like a stationary bike or an elliptical, get some miles in, and then I pretty much have like a whole boxing ring in my carport. So I do a lot of training out there and then either getting together with my boxing coach to hit pads or sparring. I spar like 3 or 4 times a week. So that's like a very heavy area of my training. And then the last 5 days to make weight, we do what we call water dumping, which back in the day when I first started, my head coach was still in his amateur career while I was starting mine. So our like level of expertise was pretty low. We pretty much just starved ourselves those last 2 or 3 days, and we rationed our water for like the last week getting up to it. And it was like, all right, clearly not the way to do it. A lot of guys still do that, but what we found works really good for me is the water dumping. So if I'm weighing in on Friday, Monday I will drink 2 gallons of water.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then Tuesday I will drink 2 gallons of water. So if you think a gallon of water weighs what, like 8 point something pounds. So I'm drinking 16 pounds of water. I will wake up 5 pounds lighter the next day.
What in the world?
How does that work?
So I would have to read up on it again. I forget what all the scientific stuff behind it is, but there's a chemical in your body that basically you'll start producing when you drink too much water that your body says, flush the water, get rid of it. We've got too much. We don't need it. And you sweat like a dog. You have to pee constantly. Like you're just completely flushing your system. So I'll do that day 1 and 2. And then day 3, I'll drop it to like 100 ounces, which is still more than most people drink in a day.
Yeah.
Still enough for your body to be like, we still have too much. We're going to keep dumping it. But not so much that I have to struggle to drink 2 gallons of water because it's not. It sucks. It's like worse than rationing the water is drinking 2 gallons. And then so that puts us at Wednesday. So Thursday I'll cut it off almost completely, and I'll have 30 ounces of water. That's 2 bottles that I make sure are gone 24 hours before I'll step on the scale. So like the last fight we weighed in at noon. So by noon on Thursday, I stopped drinking. Well, my body is still saying flush it all. And now I haven't had water in 24 hours. Now I hit the sauna because my body's still saying flush it, but I am not drinking anymore. I have complete strangers like point and laugh at me in the sauna because I am just completely soaking everything because I'm dumping so much water. I think the worst cut was the 155 for that belt. I had to travel up to Chicago, threw off my routine a little bit. So I ended up cutting, I think it was 16 pounds in that last 24 hours. And I thought I was going to die. I looked like a prison camp. Like,
were you worried that you weren't going to make weight?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I weighed in light. I was 140 or 154.6, and I had an extra 0.4 pounds. So I could have probably dropped another couple points of a pound.
Damn.
But yeah, it was. But put it in perspective. So I weighed, what was it, like 186 going up there. That last day, I had to drop like the final 16 pounds. Stepped on the scale, 154.6. Walked into the cage at 178. That was the day before Thanksgiving. So I put back on 22 pounds.
And how are you doing that?
That we also kind of have down to a science. So again, back in the day, shitty cut to begin with, but then the second you step off the scale, we all had our gallon of water that we start chugging, and then everyone was like, you go to Olive Garden and you start some pasta. You got to carve up. So that's what we did, and I'm like, looking back, I don't know how I performed for those fights. Like, it's terrible. Again, guys still do that. Like, we saw someone at one of the last weigh-ins sit down with a pitcher, like a beer pitcher full of water, and just start chugging it. And I'm like, you just bloat if you do that.
Yeah.
Like, your body needs it so bad, you just bloat. What we do now is I'll bring like the half water bottles, and I'll have those like pre-filled with some electrolytes, liquid IV or something like that. HEB has these really good little like energy cubes that are high in protein and a bunch of other good vitamins and stuff. So I'll bring that, a couple protein bars, some fruit or whatnot, and I'll pretty much set like a 5-minute timer once I'm off the scales, and I'll drink one of those, just sipping on it, and then I'll eat a couple things, and then 5-10 minutes later, do it again. And what I like to do is wait until I put on 5 pounds, and then go eat dinner. So, I mean, sometimes it takes a couple hours, but I'll do that. And I feel like giving your body that in small enough doses and the right things it needs, you kind of utilize it better. And the next day I end up feeling like absolutely amazing, even though I was half dead the day before. Yeah, definitely what works for me, and I plan on continuing to do it.
I feel like with technology and science that's available nowadays, those guys who are still like chugging water, just going and chugging the pasta, I feel like that's like they're doing a disservice to themselves with all the like research that's available now, to where you can, like you said, get it down to a science and know exactly what you need to do to put yourself in the best spot.
A lot of young fighters, it's not on them though. It's on probably poor coaching or a poor team mentality. It's just what they saw the next guy before them do, and that's what they're passing along. But it's like, man, I know how I felt back in the day when I first started compared to what I feel like now when I fight, and I'm like, no, it's to the point where I refuel so properly after weigh-ins. That day of fight, we are drinking bourbon and smoking cigars all day long.
That is amazing.
It's what we do. And it's like, if I don't do that, it like feels off. It's like, this isn't fight day. And I honestly don't think that affects my performance at all, because I've done everything right up until that point, and I'm ready to go. Back in the day, if I had had a beer after weigh-ins, I would have been like not happy. Like, it would not have went well. Now, pretty much the first thing I drink after weigh-ins is bourbon.
Look at there.
Look at there. Blood of my enemies.
I've been kind of making my thing. I'll bring some actual glassware just in case the bar doesn't have it. A lot of times they try to give us plastic cups. And I'll pour myself a double and one for my opponent, and then I take it on stage for the face-off.
That's amazing.
No one has ever said yes to it up until the last guy actually took the drink with me. I was like, yes.
That is awesome.
The promoters always love it.
Is this Blood of My Enemies? Is this one of your sponsors?
Yes, they are our sponsors out of Waco. And I kind of headhunted for bourbon because I'm like, I drink a lot of bourbon, smoke a lot of cigars, drink a lot of coffee, and of course we got Iron Table Wagyu up there. That's hard to beat. And we're gonna dig into these. Y'all get a little nibbly. I think we already sliced a few of them open. So.
And I pulled up your merchandise as well. I think the one you have on right now, that shirt right there, and then the this one right here, the tuxedo one. I think those two are my favorites so far.
Yes, this one is one of a kind. They haven't made a listing for it yet. And, don't know if I'm gonna. We'll see. But yeah, that one I like a lot. and then we put sponsors one on either sleeve. So that was actually a like part of the sponsorship package we offered, is if they got a certain level sponsorship for me, they could upgrade it with an apparel sponsorship. So on one sleeve we have the Edge Barber Shop, which is out of Temple, Belton, right up where I live. And then on the other one we have Dark Pool Coffee Company, which is that sick logo right there. So yeah, that's cool. And then I feel like it's something really tangible I can offer them outside of like appearing on my banner in a couple videos that maybe people watch of my fights, maybe they don't. This, I'm like, okay, there's 36 of those shirts being sold off that are now going to be walking around forever. It's like lifelong advertisement, and it didn't cost too much. So but yeah, I like that one. A little bit of a Peaky Blinders feel to it. That's actually my walkout
I heard
song.
it. I heard it.
Yes.
We did hear that.
Yeah, Red Right Hand is now. We fight a lot at DFA up in Irving, and they don't even ask me what my walkout song is anymore. They're like, "We got it. It's already pulled up." I'm like, "Thanks."
Yeah,
guys.
and we just talked to Dawson also from our last podcast. I think we're gonna sponsor him with
awesome.
What are we gonna do now? Is it on his shorts or?
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I looked at your prices. They're a little overpriced.
That's understandable.
Right, but I mean, we're still here to support you in any way
Appreciate it.
whatsoever. But where did the gentleman nickname? Where did the cigars and whiskey come first, or did the gentleman nickname come first?
So, I've always been cigars and whiskey.
Okay.
I don't think they're related at all to how I got the nickname.
Okay.
Dawson would probably still take credit for the nickname. That one over there would probably take some credit for it also. I think technically Dawson wanted to go with the Gentleman True, which is what the website ended up being, because the Gentleman was already taken. They wanted like 26 grand to buy it. I'm like, no, we're not there. We'll go with the Gentleman True. But I think it was more of just kind of like a mentality and behavior, probably like in sparring. I'm a very nice training partner. I like to match other people's energy and skill level. Like, I'm the last person you're gonna see out there headhunting anyone. Like, if I hurt someone, I genuinely feel bad about it. Like, that's not what I'm trying to accomplish. So yeah, I think that's pretty much where it came from. And I did a little market survey to see how it went over, and it went over really well. So we ran with it.
That's awesome. I love the nickname personally. I like the have gloves will travel too. I mean, it's straight to the point. It's right there.
So I grew up watching Have Gun Will Travel. It's an old black and white Western, and that image right there is pretty much his business card, except it said Have Gun Will Travel. And then it was the horse, a knight from a chessboard, was the centerpiece. So I just swapped that out with gloves. But a lot of older people will recognize that and be like, oh, that looks familiar. I know what that is. I'm like, straight to the point. Last year we were in Louisiana a couple times. We went up to Chicago, all over Texas. This month now, it's July, we're going to California.
Sweet.
And will that be the first time you fought in California?
Yes. So I need to get a globe and start sticking pins in it everywhere.
That would be
like,
awesome.
Yeah. So that's at this point, I'm like, if you're gonna cover my travel, pay for my coach and I to be able to stay there, and then I can leave with a little money in my pocket, I'm like, I'll go pretty much anywhere at this point. It's fun.
So my fault. You're in the weight cutting process right now that we were talking about earlier.
Yes, not near water dumping. I'm just in the diet phase of it. So weigh-ins are the 26th. So like the 21st, I'll start water dumping, and then I won't be on a podcast or talking to anyone because I'll be a little cranky.
And going back to you said your knees were giving you trouble a little bit ago. You should do some swimming. I know swimming does really good for the knees.
Yeah, I actually got like prescribed to do like some water physical therapy, and I went into it being like, all right, I'm gonna be doing like jazzercise in the
with
pool
the old
with them.
ladies.
Like, all right, and it wore me out. That was great. I ended up being like, can I do this more? And they're like, you only got like 8 sessions in your prescription. I'm like, how do I re-up that? I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah, that is funny because I know. Do the knees, like, they hurt you during the fight as well? Do they give you a problem at all?
No, for me, it's really just the running, like impact on the ground. I've had a couple like knee injections to try to fix the issue, and I don't think it's ever going away. But no, I can punch and kick and knee and get kicked, and none of that bothers me at all. But if you ask me to like run a mile, I'm gonna hurt for days afterwards. So all elliptical for me.
It's just your back that's giving you trouble, like you said earlier.
Yeah, the back is kind of another one of those that's never gonna go away. So it's like, all right, I see a chiropractor almost every single week to keep up with it, and I'm pretty conscious of taking care of it and not like doing anything dumb. I've got one of those little foam rollers, and I'll roll out on that like literally 3 or 4 times a day. I'm rolling out on that thing. But another thing that doesn't bother me in a fight at all. I feel like adrenaline kind of masks absolutely everything. So
Forgive me if you said, is your next coming fight a Muay Thai or a kickboxing fight?
No, so my next one will actually be my professional boxing debut.
So
yes, we changed things up a little bit. After the back-to-back kickboxing fights, I was like, my shins are sore. I'm going to take a break for a couple months. So I'd like for my next 2, maybe even 3 fights to be boxing, and then jump back into Muay Thai. Maybe even another MMA one in the future just to check it off the list.
Yeah. What was your determining factor in switching from amateur to pro?
I would say just the competition level.
Okay.
I didn't really feel like I was pushing myself very far at the last couple amateur fights. Last year we had a couple wins that like I didn't even feel good about. They were just like first round doctor stoppage because I swelled this kid's eye up. He couldn't even see. It was just like that was just a mismatch. Like that's not because he's a bad fighter. It's not because I'm a great fighter. It's like they just mismatched us. We both should have been with people at our caliber.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot at the amateur level. So checked with both of my coaches and was like, all right, how do you feel about it? And they were both like, oh yeah, it's time. So it's like, all right, we're gonna make the switch. And then bit off way more than we could chew with James Vick for fight 1. But I'm 30, so I'm like, I've got a ticking clock on this career. I'm not running this for 15 years. Like, I know it's probably a couple years and I'm out. I would like to fight some people that are recognized. So when people are like, oh, you're a fighter, and they look me up, it's like, oh shit, like, yeah, you actually fought some good fighters, like people we know of. So I'm like, I would rather lose like to James Vick than win against somebody no one's ever heard of. I'm like, so long as I'm not getting knocked out in slow motion on a highlight reel, which has never happened yet. So yeah, that was one that genuinely surprised me with Vic, because he's got quite the knockout record. He's had like 6 or 7 knockouts in his win column, and it's like, all right, it's a lot. He's a much bigger guy than me. This is kind of my first rodeo at this level. I'm like, this could really not go my way. So generally I make little Wagyu wagers, I call them, or bourbon bets with some of my brothers about whether or not I'll win or lose a fight. Against him, I was like, all right, the bet is if I survive all 5 rounds, I win the bet. Like, if I get knocked out, you win the bet. But no, we survived, and I genuinely like didn't really feel like too threatened of a stoppage at any point. There was nothing that like rocked me so hard that I was like, uh-oh, lights are going out. So
it seemed like it was just hard for you to close the range at some points.
So hard. Obviously he's been around a long time. He knew exactly what he was doing. He said their team watched a lot of my fights leading up to it, and they had a game plan, and they were talented enough and intelligent enough to execute that game plan, and that was keep me away. Yeah. And at 6'3", he could hit me plenty while he kept me away. So I was pretty frustrated. There wasn't much I felt like I got going until the 3rd round, and then I was like, all right, still didn't win it, but at least made it like I didn't look like I was getting walked over. So if we had had a few more rounds like we should have had, still wouldn't have won the fight. I'm not saying that, but I think I would have made it a lot more competitive for the crowd. But we were supposed to have 5 rounds, and the promotion started so late we didn't get on till after midnight. So the commission was basically like, hey, your fight's three rounds or you're not fighting. And they were like, all right, well, no one told us that. So we both learned that it was the 3-round fight in the ring. And then, like, between rounds, I'm, like, asking the commission guy in our corner, I'm like, can you please verify? Because they keep saying 3, but we know it's 5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I would like somebody to... So finally, round 2 going into round 3, they're like, this is the last round. And I'm like, dang it, I'm going to lose because there's no way. I'm like,
that's terrible.
Yeah, it was brutal, but... I joked with him. I'm like, you owe me 2 rounds. I'm like, I know I'm not entitled to a rematch, but at some point we're gonna get our 2 rounds.
Yeah, we touched on this a little bit with Dawson too. It seems like a lot of these organizations, like, I mean, nothing against them. It's a hard job to do to promote events, but it seems like a lot of them can be, I guess, unorganized is probably the best word to use.
Yes. There are so many moving parts, though. If it's someone who kind of wants to have a hand in everything, as like the promoter wants to make sure he's overseeing everything, it's just too much to keep track of. I feel like you really have to be delegating a lot to people you trust enough to not have to check up on them to get their job done. And honestly, I think that just takes time in the game.
Yeah.
A lot of these promotions we've been fighting for are like less than 10 events they've had. So it's like super new in the promoting business, and once they get past, I don't know what the magical number is, but eventually they're going to do it enough where it's just everything's going to be flowing smoothly.
Yeah.
But some stuff's completely out of their control. Like that night, the EMS, the ambulance that has to be on scene or the commission won't let you start, was 2.5 hours late.
What in the world?
Just they didn't show up.
It just didn't show up. So yeah, stuff like that where it's like, all right, you have so much on your mind. Who would think to call the ambulance service and be like, hey, remember that day we paid you to show up? You got that on your calendar? Like, that's on them. I shouldn't have to babysit that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it happens. Ironically, the very next event we went to, EMS was like 90 minutes late. And I was like, this is terrible.
Oh my gosh. I know I heard a story like Dana White. It's similar issue, but they had to take somebody off in an ambulance, and they only had one ambulance at the stadium. And so they had to wait for the ambulance to come back.
Yep.
So he was like, I'm ordering 3 ambulances from now on.
Absolutely. Yeah. But stuff you don't think about before it happens. And it's like, all right, mistake we shouldn't make again.
And then the thing about the boxing fight, you're transitioning over to boxing. Are the gloves similar to kickboxing, or are they different?
So the gloves at the professional level for my weight class should all be 10 ounces. Unless I'm doing MMA, then it will be 4-ounce gloves. So that shouldn't change. Doesn't mean it won't. Like, some promotion might be jacked up, but it should be 10-ounce gloves. I think the cutoff for boxing is 147. 147 pounds and under all use 8-ounce gloves. Everyone above that uses 10-ounce gloves. But I had an amateur fight last year in Louisiana where they gave us 8-ounce gloves, but then made us wear shin guards. And I'm like,
they're making up for the projection.
Something's
like
not adding up
in
here.
one area with another area.
Like, okay, but those 8-ounce gloves were. I was like, this is gonna be fun.
And what about the training for boxing? How difficult is it compared to kickboxing or Muay Thai?
I feel like I've consistently trained both of them like side by side. So my boxing coach is Richard Hicks out of Killeen. He's a professional boxer with a very good record. I'll work with him 3 or 4 days a week, ideally. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And that's just all mitt work, just straight mitt work, straight boxing. We're not worried too much about technique. It's just, again, output, because that's my fight style. At this point, technique I should kind of have down pat, and if I don't, that's something I have to tune up in the carport or garage. That's not something somebody should have to babysit me on at this point. It sucks. It's just constant. Hitting mitts. You're hitting mitts for 3-minute rounds, 30-second breaks, and you just go until you're tired of it. It's generally we shoot for 10 rounds. Recently, they don't have AC in their new gym, and it's freaking 100 degrees outside. So I like overheat. I'm like, is it possible to get pneumonia in this weather from the sweat and humidity in my lungs? I'm like, I feel like it is. But yeah, that makes it pretty terrible. Outside of that, I love hitting mitts. It's great. I love hitting mitts, holding mitts. It's probably like my favorite aspect of training. Boxing, I feel like, is a lot less you have to think about. A lot of my recent Muay Thai and kickboxing fights, I've actually just kind of boxed. Like, I have those options when I feel they're there, but for the most part, I'm really pushing the boxing aspect of it. That's one of the areas I felt I've grown the most in the last year, so I'm trying to utilize it and continue to sharpen it. But yeah, an actual boxing match, I'm excited to not have to worry about him kicking me in the freaking head. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I was just about to ask, your fighting style, would you say it's similar for kickboxing or Muay Thai compared to your boxing?
Yes.
I'm
having
to worry about all the crazy
right
stuff.
in boxing, we'll hear the commentators here on the 29th probably refer to me as a little dirty. I'm not gonna change too much from what I do in Muay Thai and kickboxing, and a lot of that is semi frowned upon in boxing. Not the cleanest of things, but also I'm an inside fighter. Like, a lot of commentators will be like, phone booth, he's fighting like he's in a phone booth. I'm like, that would be ideal. Like, the rings are really big. I feel like I'm playing tag, chasing guys around half the fight. So yeah, I'm really looking to get in close. I do a lot of like glove drags and elbow drags, and I'll catch their jabs and pull them into me a little bit. All those things that you're not really supposed to do in boxing.
It's not against the rules.
But you're also not supposed to clinch at all in boxing. And guys do that. I'm like, everyone's favorite combo is jab, cross, hug. I'm like, they do it all the time. So I'm like, until I get 2 or 3 warnings from a ref, they're not taking a point from me. It's not like I'm elbowing them or kicking them. Like, I'm not doing anything illegal. They can all do the same to me. But yeah, so fully expect to make it a little dirty.
Yeah. Did you?
That's what you should be doing.
It's
right?
like,
yeah, just put them in a tire and then.
That's why. So I don't know if you guys follow any of the bare knuckle stuff.
Yes.
But there's BYB, I want to say, is the name of the promotion that has the Trigon. It is a triangle boxing ring. So corners are not 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Corners are tight. Like,
And
you get someone in a corner and
brutal.
they are stuck in a corner. I'm like, that is, I want to get there. That would be a lot of fun.
That is interesting. So is there, I know you fought, it looks like most of your fights are in a cage, but some of your like fights are in the ring. Like, I guess on a Muay Thai kickboxing perspective, do you prefer a cage or a ring? Is there like, does it really matter?
Prefer a cage just because it's what I'm used to and what I'm comfortable in. Like, a lot of, I don't think I've trained in a gym that had a ring up until like last year. I had never even been in a boxing ring. It was always a cage. So I like cages. I like the stability of the wall. If I can push someone up against a wall, I can pretty much pin them there. But there's no corners in a cage. A boxing ring, I haven't quite gotten down to where I'd like to be for pinning people in corners and keeping them there. But once I figure that out and tune it up a little bit, I think I'll prefer the ring. Because you can't run from me if you're in a corner. So I like it.
No, I'm gonna look up that Trigon. Like, I'm curious to see what that looks like, actually.
Yeah, I think it's BYB is the promotion.
Is that flask also one of your merchandise, or is that a personal issue one?
We haven't started selling these yet, but it was gifted to me. It's obviously the logo matches that. We get to fill it with that amazing stuff.
That is awesome.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, it's like a.
So that BYB logo with the fist.
Pardon me.
So that's a cage. I haven't seen that one yet.
Hit the square up there and like make it full screen, like top right corner. Yeah.
There you go.
Click on that, or
either that one's it.
That one. Go to that one, like bottom left-hand corner. See that? Yeah. Is that what it?
Yes.
That is. How big is
that's
that?
Pretty small. I mean, if you look at it, there's 3 guys in there right now. They all look like they could reach their hands out and touch each other.
Yeah.
Like it's probably. I mean, I don't know how you measure it, corner to corner, center to ropes. Like I don't know what you do, but I imagine if you're dead center, it's not more than probably 4 or 5 steps before you got someone in a corner.
So there's no running from anybody either there.
No.
Because if you have center of the ring dominance, you can practically trap them in all
Any
3
corner,
corners
yeah.
at once.
Well, I've never seen that.
That is interesting. Look up when their next fight is. I want to watch this. When your fight on the 29th, where's that going to be at?
That's Commerce Casino in California.
Oh, that's right, California. Okay, where's what city in California is that?
I think Commerce is the city, but it's right next to Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. My geography might be a little off there.
Brawl in the Pines.
This one's in
Florida
on August 10th.
August 10th.
So we got a little bit.
Yeah, we have to watch
We
that.
got a little bit.
Where do they typically stream like your fight or the promotions that you've been a part of? Do they have their own website to stream the fights, or do?
So the last one I did was Triple FL, their inaugural event up in Irving.
Okay.
And that's by Ocho Stevens.
Okay.
And he has Ocho TV, I want to say it's called. So like he already had his own, like, I don't know if it's a podcast streaming service, whatever, but he already had everything set to go so that when he did his first event, he just ran through himself essentially with that streaming service. A lot of people use Combat Sports Coverage. I feel like that's the most popular one. And you can do pay-per-views through them. Streaming is often shitty, so they also set it up on like Facebook, where if it drops there, you can kind of pick it up on Facebook Live or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at this point, this day and age, everyone should have it streamed. Like that. When I first got started, it was they'd record it, and the next event you could buy the DVD for the last event. But they kind of encouraged you to come back. But as a fighter, I had to go buy my DVD if I wanted to watch.
They didn't even give you a free DVD.
I was like, this is bullshit.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, and talk about Dawson that we just had on the podcast before. He has a little kid on the way, and he said
yes. As of this morning, I think it was yesterday. Born. What are you saying? 2 days ago. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Baby is here. So
that's awesome.
Congratulations.
Very excited for him.
But I was going with that. Does that boost your motivation to keep on fighting, or does it kind of you be like, okay, I need to calm it down a little bit?
I don't know what it will do for him. I'm assuming it'll boost him a little. For myself, I let it be all right, I'm getting old. I'm a dad now. I'm gonna stop. So I genuinely never expected to fight again when I retired. And now that I'm back into it, it very much motivates me. My oldest is a boy, Jasper, and he is the most competitive person I've ever met in my life, and he's 4, so he's not good at anything. but he's super competitive with everything. So I'm like, man, you can't, like, you're crying when you lose something. And I'm like, okay. So at this point, my goal is just to show him, like, you can lose well if you try your best and you have fun. I don't care if you win. I don't even care if I win at this point. Like, I'm out there putting on the best show I can, having a blast while I'm doing it. And if I lose, I lose. If I left it up to the judges, I probably didn't deserve to win it anyway. So for me at this point, I'm like, I definitely want to use it as kind of like a parenting tool to be able to show him, like, hey, like, your dad wasn't that good at this. Had a great time always. Like, tried his best always. Never quit. Kept trying his best always. But yeah, the training part of it gets rough with kids because now it's like, okay, I'm missing bedtime. Well, why? Is it really worth it to miss bedtime? Or I'm dipping out before they wake up in the morning. It's like, is it really worth it? Like, I have to be a lot more intentional with how I'm spending that energy to train, because it's like, okay, I'm missing out on key moments as a dad that I feel like are super important. Or like some of these tournaments we've gone to, we're gone for a whole week, and it's like I'm missing a lot. I can't half-ass it anymore. Like back in the day, I was like, I'll fight anyone, any weight class. Literally used to fight on like a day's notice. They'd have people miss weight, and they'd be like, hey, you want to fight? And I'm like, yeah, I'll fight the guy who cut to my walk-around weight, because that's a smart idea. And I'd go get my ass kicked. I'm like, now I'm like, that's not a thing. I have to at least like give it my all as much as I can, because otherwise I'm wasting my time and I'm missing out on important things to waste my time. So yeah, hopefully it motivates him. I'm assuming it will as a dad.
Will you encourage him to like pursue mixed martial arts in some, not necessarily like in a professional aspect, or just like as something to do? Because I love the mental aspect, especially. I feel like it's just a good. And Dawson kind of said the same thing. Like he'll encourage his kids, just for the like the mental acuity and the
I mean, even just the discipline and like self-respect that comes out of it, the confidence level that, I mean, like I was homeschooled. You probably couldn't tell from my great, social interactions. But yeah, just getting into martial arts and being comfortable with someone standing face to face in front of you and trying to punch you in that face makes you so much more comfortable in other areas of even just social interaction, where it's like, okay, I know how to handle myself if this doesn't go according to plan.
Yeah.
So we're still going to try it. If it doesn't go according to plan, it doesn't go according to plan. So yeah, I'll 100% encourage him. I definitely won't pressure him. My oldest daughter is probably the one that's going to end up in martial arts, because she is, she's aggressive. Jasper's more of a thinker. He likes playing chess already at 4 years old, awesome. And checkers, and loves math and all that sort of stuff. So I won't pressure him too much, but when his little sister's beating the crap out of him, he'll probably be like, maybe I should listen to Dad.
This was the one with the high left leg kick.
Yes.
I just wanted to see that. I'm going to turn the volume up a little bit. We'll see you soon, Jasper. I think it's later on in the round, or we're coming up on it now. Was he giving you trouble, or what was up with this dude?
No. So weirdly enough, this was the first person I had ever faced off against, like at weigh-ins, that I had just a little sinking feeling in my gut, and I literally said to myself, I was like, this one's not going to go my way. Like, I genuinely didn't think it was going to. I was nervous for probably the first time going into the fight, because it didn't feel like it was going to go great for me. And I just completely beat the brakes off him round 1, and round 2 not like dropped him cold. Yeah, weird, because I never felt that before. Never felt that since, but just that one, I was like, the walk away was pretty clean.
What'd you do? You threw a leg kick first and then the head kick?
So, yep, that's what, like I was mentioning, Dawson pointed out in my corner. So I just did a little inside leg kick. And so all of the first round, I had been doing those with intent. Like I was putting some steam on it. So he was very, like his hands would drop when I do it. He did not want me kicking the inside of that leg anymore. So for that one, I was like, all right, we just touched it inside. And his whole composure just kind of slumped down and just dropped it right on the button for the next one. And that was that. I didn't know the fight was over, because I had turned around and walked back to my corner. I'm like, I'm not going to be rude. And the gentleman, I'm not out there like, hell yeah, we knocked him out. So I turn around and Dawson's like, no, like, look, like he's done. The ref called it. I'm like, what? All right, cool.
Wait, so they let you get back up? Oh, it's not.
So yes, in kickboxing, Muay Thai, boxing, you get the 8 count or the 10 count, whatever it is. So yeah, you get, and a lot of times, like, it's a lot longer than that. They'll count slow, or after you get to their feet, they'll take their sweet time to check on you. So I had one guy that should have been a first round knockout. And when we went back and watched the film, it was like 18 seconds the ref gave him.
That's
to
ridiculous.
Get up. I'm like, who's got? And some people have been like, you can like submit like an appeal, and I'm like, to have my win by unanimous decision changed to a win by KO, I'm like, that feels kind of douchey. I'm like, it's not that important. Especially now, that was an amateur fight. I'm like, no one's looking back at my amateur knockout record.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and this guy. Did you slip right there?
Yeah, we both kicked it like the same exact time, and those advertisement stickers are sometimes really grippy, sometimes really slick.
I didn't even think about the fact that that could affect.
One of the first things you do when you get in the cage is you go feel those, because they could be great launching pads for that Superman punch, or they could be me falling flat on my face.
Yeah, this guy is huge. I don't want to get.
Yeah, he was big.
It's like you said earlier, like the level of competition is the reason you moved up. Like watching like some of your fights, it was clear like as soon as we switched over from your amateur fights to your professional fights that like the people you were fighting knew a little bit more about what they were doing.
The biggest thing that I've actually appreciated finding is being matched composure wise. Like when I fought Vic, we were both standing there like calm, cool, collected, cold eyes. Just everyone knew exactly what was going on and how we were going to go about it. When I'm fighting amateur guys, a lot of the times it's like you can see the nerves in their face. They react emotionally to things. It's just like, all right, but now that we're at the pro level, I hope to start. I mean, I never want to be the one outgunned or anything, but I'm like, I would like to feel like I'm the noob in the ring because they are showing that level of composure.
Right. Your tattoos are sweet. What's that one on your back that you have?
The Good Will Prevail. I like that one.
A firefighter by day. So my whole back piece will end up having a lot of like 9/11 tributes to it. So that was the headline on 9/12. Was Good Will Prevail. And there's the bunch of pictures under it. So yeah, that's the first piece I started with on my back. Regretted it instantly. That tattoo artist trash. Moving forward, it will probably not get covered, but he'll definitely
touch it up,
improve it.
Yeah. Are you looking to like fill up your whole bag?
Yes. Yeah, it'll be.
That'll be sweet. And you got you got your kids' handprints on your forearms.
Yeah, I'm still missing one. I haven't gotten a tattoo.
Okay.
I gotta put the youngest.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna do a full sleeve.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna pay to get just that, and then pay to get the whole sleeve. So.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I would love to get a tattoo. I just have no clue what the hell I want.
Yeah. Talking about like all this photography and stuff, I feel like one of the big things in fighting nowadays is you have to like build the personality, like promote yourself. And I feel like having like a professional photographer and things like this is really big in getting that done.
100%. That's like, I mean, the whole website and everything, like something that is like a living track record people can go back and look at of, okay, we've been doing this for a while now and we've been looking professional since day one. That's kind of like a little catchphrase I used a lot last year was there's no such thing as an amateur fighter. I'm like, because there shouldn't be. Like, I understand we're not getting paid, but you are still a professional. If you're not representing yourself as a professional inside and outside the ring, you're doing a disservice to mixed martial arts and just go away. Like, I hate seeing like the ball dropped at so many levels getting into it. Like those shorts I'm wearing right there, $30 on Amazon. It doesn't take a lot. And just that alone, as an amateur in the locker room, we would have guys coming up to me, asking me all sorts of questions, helping them get ready and stuff, just assuming I was a professional fighter because I looked and behaved like a professional fighter. It's real easy to look like a sloppy amateur, but if you care at all about what you're doing, I'm like, little things doesn't take a lot of money, doesn't take a lot of effort. You can look professional.
Yeah, it's very smart. That's awesome. Very smart too, especially like well, sometimes there's people where they don't look professional, like Sean O'Malley, where they're always just like, you know, smoking and doing all
that's his persona at this point. So it's like, but for me, I'm like, I think the photography alone is probably to blame for like half of the sponsors I've gotten. If I can show a potential sponsor that photo and be like, that could be your logo right there on a sick photograph that's going to make some highlight reel of something, I'm like, you got a little bit of a talking point there you can bring to them. Otherwise, it's like, oh, I'm going to hang this banner behind me. And if I, like, no, I'm going to put you on my shorts. I'm going to tag you in all the social media stuff. Like, yeah, actually, I don't want to get sponsorships as handouts. I want to feel like I'm contributing something to it. Like it's advertisement for you. If I can't make it advertisement, also, I can't be a shitty person going around jumping up on the cage or saying F you to the ref if he makes a bad call. And like, because I now represent other things. So it keeps me accountable, which I appreciate.
Have you ever like ran into issues? Because I think it's less of an opinion now, but I mean, maybe 10 or so years ago, like people still thought like combat sports was a little barbaric in some ways. Do you ever like run into sponsors who are like, oh, we don't want to like touch that area or be associated with that?
So I pretty much either like we headhunt a sponsor or we put out like that post you saw on Instagram and then they come to me. So it's not, I'm not going around like asking every mom and pop shop if it's something they consider. So pretty much everyone I speak to, we already know they're kind of interested.
That's
like
good.
For this, okay, like bourbon. You see I drink a ton of bourbon. You see I smoke cigars. I have a cigar lounge that sponsors me. Like all these things kind of work in the same, like the people who like one, like most of them. And the people who like those generally like combat sports. So it's kind of like I try to find very complimentary sponsors. I'm all about like brand recognition. So when you can look at my shorts and you can see bourbon next to coffee, next to a cigar lounge, well then in that cigar lounge, I have them drinking that bourbon or selling that coffee or something. So you're really like pushing. I mean, I very heavily try to peddle all of my sponsors. Like you're investing in me, I am investing in you. Like I genuinely, the first time I had this, I was like, this, please don't be shitty. I'm like, because I'm obligated to promote it, and so like everyone's watching me as I'm going to take the first drink, and I'm like, don't be bad. It's fantastic. I bought like 20, but I'm not just saying that. It's great. Yeah, it's stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, it's the coffee. Absolutely love it. I'm like, it'd be hard for me to get behind stuff that I'm like, yeah, it's nice you're giving me your money, but if I don't really believe in you, I'm expecting you to believe in me. So I'm like, this goes both ways. It's not a one-way street. So yeah, I've been pretty fortunate with all the sponsors we've picked up so far, and now that we're pro, I hope to continue pushing those and growing that. So.
There's also a fine line with trying to keep sponsors and trying to promote fights, because you see fighters always being disrespectful to other fighters and doing dirty stuff. But if you're just sticking to it, you keep the sponsors that you want to keep that you're talking about. It's very I think it's a very fine line of what you would rather do.
Yeah. I already made a decision a long time ago. I'm like, you will never hear me call anyone out. I'm not going to be, I mean, if it's a call out, it's going to be like, hey, so-and-so is a really good fighter. I like to think I'm good enough to be in the ring with them. Let's get that lined up. Like once I get to the point where I feel like I'm going to badmouth someone, I'm like, I think I have like a religious objection to hurting someone that I want to hurt. Like it's not the point. It's not sport anymore. That's me trying to hurt you. And I'm like, I don't really care to hurt anyone. So if it happens, it happens. We both agreed to the terms of this arrangement, but it's definitely not. If I feel like I actually have a problem with you, I probably would not agree to fight you.
Oh, that's very
personally. That's probably where the gentleman mentality stems
your
from.
Nickname fits you very well. Getting to know you.
Yeah, I'd say that opinion's not very popular for most fighters.
No, not at all.
And it's like, I mean, a lot of fighters, I feel like once you get up into the UFC and stuff like that, they're almost like not told, but like kind of like basically told like, hey, you need to come at this guy so we can promote this fight.
Right. I mean, it's even Colby Covington. He was good for a long time, and he said it. He's like, nobody knew who I was. Nobody cared. Like I didn't make any drama. Now he makes all the drama in the world, and he's famous. So
Yeah.
I would rather retire before I get to having to make that decision.
And that's
but
respectable.
I also don't have millions of dollars like he got paid, so who knows? You might see me in a few years, and I'll just have the gentleman scratched out on my shirt.
The villain.
Right.
And with this, what's on
What are they-
screen now? What is a smoke? What's a smoker?
So this is a smoker. I don't know if it's unique to Texas, but it's definitely not in the Midwest where I come from. So I had never heard of this. A smoker is essentially an unsanctioned fight. They won't call it that. It's called hard sparring. There's no winner declared. So it's just a sparring round, but you're both going in there trying to take each other's heads off as if it was a real fight. Like, I don't know this guy. He doesn't know me. This particular one was very interesting because I found out after the fact he was a professional fighter, hadn't fought in a couple years, and I guess thought that made it okay for him to go do a smoker. It's not okay. This point, now that I'm a professional fighter, I cannot go do smokers.
Is that like legally or just like?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it would be legally if it came to light.
Yeah.
But definitely like ethically, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't even make sense. Also, a lot less oversight, so weight doesn't really matter. So you noticed he was a little larger than me. I weighed in at like 175. He weighed in at 187.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, all right.
As long as you're within 20 pounds.
There's a big difference here. They'll ask both fighters, both coaches, and so
Mhm.
long as everyone agrees, they go do it. It's a great tool if used properly for guys because you can have 10 fights before you ever make your debut real fight.
Yeah.
And for me, and I think a lot of people starting out, the hardest part of getting into it is getting used to the adrenaline and the lights and just the like being in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember anything about my first fight from a actual like memory standpoint. I remember what I watched on the video months later when the DVD came out. The only thing I remember is the very first punch I ever took in a cage knocked me flat on my ass. I just took a cross right to the chin. Didn't hurt at all. It was just force and pressure. Knocked me down, popped back up. That's the only thing I really remember. Everything else was everywhere you look outside the ring, it's just lights shining in at you. The crowd's loud. The adrenaline's just pumping. Now it's like I can look out and I'll find the photographer in the crowd and make eye contact for a good photo. Like I'm that composed in the moment. But in the Midwest, we didn't have smokers, so that wasn't an option. Guys now can go get all those jitters out of the way, and then they come into their amateur career if they played their cards right. A pretty decently seasoned amateur fighter. They've already had 10, 15 fights.
Yeah.
It's not too much different about them. You had to wear headgear for safety reasons, and then you can actually, move on with your amateur career and look the part from the get-go. For guys, I think looking at a pro future, that's 100% the way to play it. 100% the way to play it.
I saw there was a crowd there too, which I was surprised.
Yeah, so they'll door charge.
Yep.
I mean, they don't like sell tickets. It's walk in, you pay $10, $20, whatever it is, and you walk, and it's a packed house. I mean, I've had some smokers. We've had 300-400 people in the room, and everyone's just standing because there's no sitting room. It's in like a gym. And it feels every bit just like a real fight. Like they do a really good job of making that experience for you. So I always encourage people to
throw you
go
in a
to
smoker.
Let's go do the smoker.
Yeah. You don't need to. They do the College
Yeah,
Station.
yeah.
There's like a fight night. Yeah, fight night. They did at Shriner Park.
Oh yes, I've seen those.
That was
they
madness.
Throw the boxing ring.
It was
in there.
madness. They had a
those do get
boxing
pretty
ring.
Interesting.
I'm in the ring, and I look up, and there is the balcony hanging over the ring, and people leaning over the balcony with drinks. And I'm like, if you drop that beer can, this fight turned a whole different way. I'm like, it was crazy. They packed that house out. And I think I was one of like 2 people on the card with any fighting experience whatsoever. Everyone else was frat boys who literally got handed their credentials to fight that day. And I'm like, oh my, what did we walk into?
I had a couple buddies who did one of those a while back. It might have been the same one. I don't know. But they are in fraternities here, and they just like hit me up one day. They're like, "Yeah, I think I'm gonna box," and I was like, "Okay, let's see how this goes."
Where was it at? Shrine?
Yeah.
Oh,
Shiner Park.
Shiner Park. There you go. Yeah. No, I was thoroughly impressed with how they put it on because I expected like it was gonna be a shit show. No, they had the commission there. Everything was run very, very smoothly. They had a bunch of cameramen and stuff there. I haven't actually gotten to see any footage from it, but I mean, they probably had 4 or 5 guys going around with video cameras taking footage. So I'm like, some frat somewhere had some great fight footage from that night.
I'm pretty sure they had midget wrestling there the other night too.
They did, yes, they did.
Which I was like, hey, let's.
I was
go.
kind of pissed I
Yeah.
didn't see anything about it because I wanted to go, and then I see it like on Instagram reels. I'm like, how did we miss this?
But what are we watching now? Oh, this is the.
This is looks like round 2 of the title fight.
I like these cornerman view videos that you have on. I think those are pretty interesting.
That was, I went up to Illinois, so I didn't have like any of my team with me. So the gentleman in the video there, Anthony Valut, is my head coach from back when I first started. So he hadn't seen me probably 5-6 years, and I hit him up and I was like, hey, we got some unfinished business at TFC, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm there. So, I mean, hadn't seen him for years, showed up, held pads for me to warm up, and it was, I mean, it took a minute, and we were right back. And I mean, because we worked together for like 10 years at this. So, yeah, it was instant chemistry, back to it, fighter and coach. And I had one of my buddies up there sitting in on the corner with me, and I was like, this is your only job. Hold the camera. Like, don't look at it. Like, watch the fight, enjoy the fight, but just... Oh yeah, right here I was getting ready to eat him alive. I'm leaning down, just knocking my gloves together. He was dog
You probably
tired.
could have got a badass picture from that too.
Yeah, there's probably. It was
There's
in
one out
Chicago.
there.
I didn't pay for my photographer to fly up with me.
Let's get after it.
So how many, like, including smokers, how many total fights do you think you've done?
Including smokers, since June last year, I would say probably 20, 22, somewhere in that range. And if you count when I first started, smokers weren't a thing, but I had 11 fights back then. So I'm in the 30s for fights, but only 2 professional ones now. So we're just last month officially breaking into the professional realm. But I don't plan on letting it slow me down. It's harder to find matches because there's a lot more paperwork and regulations and stuff that has to go into it. Boxing, I've had a heck of a time finding matches. Too many people out there trying to pad their records. They want to find easy people to fight. So they're like, oh, this guy's making a boxing debut. Let's look at him. And then they look me up on BoxRec or Tapology or something like that, and they're like, oh, no, he's not. He's not a noob. He just doesn't box. We're not going to risk it. So I have I've had fighters who are like 3 or 4-0 say no, they won't fight me. And I'm like, I have no boxing fights. Like, what do you mean? If you're not comfortable fighting me, you probably shouldn't be fighting. Like, this is silly. But in boxing, it's all about that O in the lose bracket. As soon as you pick up a loss, you can kiss any like big hopes and dreams goodbye because it's just not there for you. You lose like 80% of your marketability once you hit that first loss. So
I'm not like the biggest like boxing fan, but I've tried to get more into it recently, especially with like now like Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. I feel like kind of started a domino effect of like better boxers actually fighting each other and focusing less on that zero, which I think we have Crawford and Spence coming up on the 29th as well. I think that should be a hell of a match.
I hope so. So many of these big boxing fights we get so excited about, and then they're just like anticlimactic or lackluster. The most exciting fights I've seen recently are the big female fights that they push out there. Like Katie Taylor went up a weight class, risked her undefeated streak, and like that was a darn good fight. That was probably one of the best boxing fights I've seen in years. But the guys, I'm like, most of them, I feel like they're so, I mean, it's partly you respect the damage the other guy can do, but also it's that fear of, oh, I don't want to be on the knockout highlight reel. And they just kind of dance for 8 of 10 rounds. It's like, it's hard for me to find an exciting boxing fight.
Oh,
But
sorry about that. Speaking of
Sorry.
boxing, I paused this. I saw you do a little Canelo type of move.
Yes.
Watch this.
So that one I missed, sadly. You can find a dozen of those that I do not miss. I love it, and people fall for it all the time. And once you get them to fall for it the first time, I like to do almost the exact opposite. I'll flash that hand, and instead of going to the body, I come down from up top. So there's not a ton of power on it, but I'll literally just smack guys right across the face because both their hands went down to their gut. Because if it happened once, it's going to happen again. And no, that's one of my favorite little feints, and I love that people fall for it because it's so silly. But I guess somehow psychologically it works. I'm like, you should let me do this all fight long. You don't care. That's not doing anything. Nope. People panic. I'm like,
I
all
saw
right.
you do that. I was like, is that Canelo? That's fine.
Yep.
Because he does that all the time, and he does it beautifully.
Yep. I think that's what we actually call it, is the
he does it
Canelo.
beautifully.
Yeah, I've straight up put people down
Really?
with that one. Yeah.
Did you do it again this fight? Do you know?
I don't know if I tried it again this fight. I was too busy enjoying just walking down and pummeling him.
I heard whenever I was watching this earlier, I think I heard some USA chants in the crowd too.
Yes. So the build up for this fight is the promoter retired out of the Marine Corps. So he served a lot of years. My opponent right there is a Marine, and I am active duty Army. So it was very much they tried to pit us as like branch versus branch to get the crowd involved. Yeah. So that dude walked out with like a Marine flag, not like over his shoulders. He carried on a stick the Marine flag. And when I showed up, they were like, "Did you bring your Army flag?" And I'm like, "Listen, I know about like how prideful you guys are about your Marine heritage and all that." And I'm like, I don't own an Army flag. Nobody I know owns an Army flag. I'm like, I certainly didn't pack it from Texas when I flew up here. Like, no, I don't have an Army flag. But yeah, there were definitely some USA chants out there. I was like, all right.
Thank you for your service, of course. Thank you. Oh, is that the end? Do they call it right there? Or what happened? Oh, yeah.
I think that was just the end of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome watching your fights. I think we watched all your videos so far. Oh, this one right
here. This was I think you won this one by like uppercut stoppage.
So yeah, this one I got the ref stopped it with like probably 8 seconds left to go in the third round. Like it was so close, but I had gotten a couple like knockdowns, 10 counts on him. So it was pretty much going that way the whole time. I'm sure I would have won by unanimous decision if it wasn't a stoppage. But yeah, I landed a couple good like consecutive power shots, and he was kind of head down, heading one way, and I was just trailing him with it. Yeah, it was a fun one. That was one. The shin guards were actually his choice. So they let us pick a few things, and 8-ounce gloves were agreed upon. No headgear was agreed upon. And then it came to shin guards, and he was like, no, 100%, we're doing shin guards. And at that point, I was right away like, all right, if you want shin guards, you don't want this. So
I was just about to ask, why would you want shin guards?
That's been another fun part. The commentators that I've been able to have commentate. Like, I never thought about that back in the day. Like, I don't even know that we had commentators for a lot of fights because they weren't streamed, so it wasn't really a thing. But I've had some big names commentating. That's been a ton of fun. I'm like, I never thought I'd even get to see or meet this person. I get to hear him talk about me for 15 minutes. I'm like, that's awesome.
Is there like a promotion that you have your eyes on for the future? Like any like specific future goals other than kick ass?
So I definitely want to end up in the BKFC. I did one of their tryouts at the beginning of last year, and they almost immediately hit me up and wanted me for 145. And at the time, I'm like, I'm 190 pounds.
Yeah.
Nope. I'm like, I can't do it. So there's been a couple little things that have come up for that since then, but it's all been at that 145. I'm like, I cannot make 145. So I'll jokingly shit talk some BKFC guys on social media. I mean, I message them on the side and let them know I'm not being disrespectful. But it's all about building the hype. So we'll banter back and forth in the comment section, and I'm hoping they drop a contract for me here at some point. Because with my fight style and my hard head, I'm like, I think bare knuckles kind of what would suit me the best as far as my skill set. Like, I think it'd be a ton of fun. Definitely something I want to check off the bucket list.
That would be hell. And I feel like it's growing in popularity pretty quickly now too. I watched the Mike Perry, Luke Rockhold one. Was that their most recent card, or have
that was their most recent big card? That was their first actual pay-per-view style card. But they run them like every other weekend.
Oh, wow.
They have them. Like, I think there was one last night.
That's
or
awesome.
Friday night. Yeah, it's very, very frequently they run those. But yeah, they have like a circle boxing ring almost, which is an interesting the contrast to that triangle one we were just looking at.
And there's no grappling or anything. It's really just bare knuckle boxing.
Yes, but you are allowed to clinch. Okay. You are allowed. So there's a lot of collar ties and just constant dirty little uppercuts from a clinch, which is great, especially bare knuckle. You're open-handed. You're not worried about boxing gloves getting in your way. It's not hard to get that. And once you get it, you can really lock onto it and be raining down punches. So I look like this right here. They're just...
do you have to be careful like where you're placing your punches, because I feel like a broken hand is very common.
I misplaced a gloved punch probably 8 months ago, and I tagged someone right on the hip bone instead of in the ribs, and even today after sparring, it is bothering me. It's like 8 months ago. So yeah, I imagine bare knuckle, if you're hitting someone on the top of the head or you catch someone on a hip bone or something, that can't feel good. You're gonna break stuff for sure.
These guys are throwing so fast. I don't even know what they're throwing.
They're little guys though. You can tell because they're not taller than
yeah.
But I think bare knuckle is a great, I think it has a future in the industry, and I'm excited to see what happens with it.
Have you heard of Lithway?
I was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and he mentioned it. I don't know how to spell it, but look at it. It's like Li, and they can headbutt.
They can headbutt. I think some rule sets you can even intentionally groin shot, which isn't super uncommon. Like in Thailand, there's a lot of Muay Thai fights where you're allowed to teep to the groin.
Oh,
which feels super dirty, but it's probably frowned upon. Maybe it doesn't look good to the judges if you have to resort to that. But hey, it's part of the game if it's part of the rules. So, but yeah, Lithway is. I could not tell you how to spell it. I think it's also called
Lithway. I think it's that right there. Yeah.
Yeah, they headbutt. It's bare knuckle, knees, elbow, all that. Traditionally, there are no judges.
Really?
None. You fight to stoppage.
So it's the closest thing to fight
is
to
amazing.
We can get to nowadays.
And they have an injury timeout in mixed martial arts, where if you get last night with Strickland getting the eye poke, he gets up to 5 minutes. In Lithway, you get knocked unconscious. Your team has 5 minutes to revive you, and you can continue fighting. And I'm like, yeah, that's where brain damage sets in. That's crazy.
In their head to launch attacks.
I've seen this guy. He works headbutts into his combos.
Yes. Bald guy with a goatee. Yes. Yeah, he's one of the biggest names in Lithway right now. Yeah, he's probably the last person you want to meet in a bar fight.
Seriously.
Headbutt spearing you.
Have you watched any karate combat?
Hmm?
I like the way they do the like vertical wall or the
Yes.
45-degree walls.
That ring is cool. It reminds me of there was an old boxing ring that was similar to that. That was a circle with the little incline,
Mhm.
but no ropes, so because you can't get out of it. Karate combat, I think they call it the pit.
Mhm.
What I like about it is it doesn't seem like they count you as a downed opponent if you're leaning against the wall.
Yes, correct.
So you can, if you have someone pinned on that incline, you're good to continue essentially a ground and
Mhm.
pound. They're not in an ideal position, but the second they actually get to the ground, I think they do a 3 count and then they stand you up because it's
Yeah.
not a grappling thing. It's
Mhm.
just a striking thing. So you get to the ground, you get 3 or 4 seconds to work, and then they stand you up. But yeah, that ring setup is pretty cool.
I saw like a couple guys were like jumping off of it and like spinning back kicks
Mhm.
off the side, and it's cool to see him use that because I feel like yes, you have like cage, like jumping off the cage and like the octagon and stuff, but being like straight up and being a cage, it can be kind of hard to actually like
Right.
get some power off of that. But with the incline, you can actually
Mhm.
use it to
Yeah.
generate some force.
Yeah, I want to see that to like a flying elbow.
Mhm.
That's one thing. So you've seen plenty of my Superman
Yeah.
punches. I'm like, whenever I get this next Muay Thai fight where I'm good to go with elbows, I'm like, I'm gonna go for a Superman elbow.
Oh,
I'm gonna wait till
yes.
we're this close. Instead of throwing a Superman punch from
Oh,
long
man.
range, I'm gonna throw a Superman elbow from close range. I'm like, that feels like it'd be fun to do.
Yeah.
You'd probably bust a door down with a Superman elbow.
Right?
My goodness. I couldn't imagine taking that to the dome. There's no way.
No, these headbutts, I can't imagine.
I can't see
headbutt.
you fighting and like fighting more than 10 or 12 fights without like severe brain damage.
Especially if you're one of those stubborn guys who lets your team revive you 2 times in the same fight. I'm like, in most pro combat sports, you get knocked out, you catch a 30 to 90 day suspension before you can fight again.
Oh, really?
In that, you get knocked out and you're fighting 3 minutes later when they revive you. I'm like, there's a reason we do the suspension, guys. Like,
so I
take
take
a
it
break.
Pereira couldn't have gotten a suspension after he got knocked out because he's fighting like what in 2 weeks?
It was probably a 30-day because that
Okay.
was at least a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
So the mandatory suspension, at least in Texas, is 9 days. So I fought on May 13th. I was automatically, win or lose, suspended until the 23rd.
Mm.
So then fighting on the 27th was literally like as close as physically possible with that. Comes into play a lot, though, when you're trying to line up future fights. Like, I've got my fight booked for the 29th. Trying to book fights in August. There's a lot of fights on the 12th. But guys are a little hesitant to put my name in the hat for the 12th because if I get knocked out on the 29th, I'm going to be suspended and they're going to have to drop that fight.
Okay.
So you really have to be a little political about it and really strategic with setting it up because I can't take a fight for this amount of money one day and then miss out on a much bigger payday because the windows are too close. So
Yeah.
it's a lot I didn't think I'd have to think about when we made the transition, but
There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, like even that I've learned like from Dawson and now you, that I think most like your casual fan of the sport who's never participated in the sport, it never even crosses their
your
mind.
Yeah, it never, as a competitor, it never crossed my mind until I encountered it and was like, oh, I guess I can't fight for another 10 days. I'm like, as an amateur, I'd fight Friday and Saturday, like 2 different events. There was no problem with that. But nope, once you bring the licensing and regulations and all that oversight into it, which is good, it definitely has a reason. But yeah, little things we got to adjust fire accordingly with.
Well, True, can I call you True?
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
I'm going to bring this to an end because otherwise my editing time is going to be ridiculous.
Perfect.
But we'll have to do another episode here down the road. We
Yes,
really
definitely.
enjoyed having
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Tell the fans when your next fight is, where they can watch it, where they can reach you.
You can watch it. I don't know where yet. It hasn't been posted, but if you follow me on Instagram, it's you can't handle the true on Instagram. There's an underscore between every one of those words. But I'll definitely be posting updates for all of that. It's July 29th in Commerce, California, and it'll be my professional boxing debut.
Let's go.
So should be a lot of fun.
yeah.
I'm excited for it.
And we also got your website pulled up right here. Go check out the merch.
Yes.
I'm
We'll
copping
have
this
link in
one.
bio for every one of
Yes,
these
yes,
things.
Absolutely.
But like I said, we appreciate having you. Until next time.